This is NTV.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our 1 o'clock news update for an account of the developments thus far. And speaking of count, this is World Population Day, and Helen Aura is at Times Towers, where there is a function to find out where we are. And we won't quite get into the conspiracies, Helen, about the population and COVID-19 and whether it's a measure to try and control the population. There's conspiracies going everywhere. But let's stick to the facts, Helen.
Mark, today as the world celebrates World Population Day, the theme this year is putting the brakes on COVID-19 and how to safeguard the health and rights of women and girls now. And I inquired as to why this year this particular theme was of importance. And the reason being is that of the increased cases of gender-based violence and increased cases of teenage pregnancies. Earlier on, the CS had stated by early March, by end March, cases of gender-based violence had increased by around, until the end of June, they had increased by around 55%. And this is indeed an alarming rate. Even when we look on the other hand, also cases of teenage pregnancies still remain to be alarming in this country. And I'm joined by Dr. Sheikh Mohammed, who is the DG in the National Council for Population and Development. And he'll even just take us through what some of these challenges mean, during the sampling process. Dr. what does this necessarily mean? What are some of the challenges that this brings to the country?
Thank you for having me today. Today we launched the state of the Kenyan population report and the state of the world population report. These are two documents that are looking at issues that pertains to population. So this year report was looking at issues to do with harmful practices. As you are aware, last year here in Kenya, we hosted one of the most successful ICPD, that's International Conference on Population and Development, 25 years after it was hosted in Cairo. On this, we looked at we had made some commitment on 17 issues, but overarching issues was having zero maternal mortality, zero gender-based violence, and zero harmful practices. So this year, in our report, we focus on having zero harmful practices. And when we talked about harmful practices, we are looking at issues to do with gender-based violence. We are looking at issues to do with female genital mutilation. We are looking at issues to do with early child marriage. And we are looking at other harmful practices, which are maybe cultural harmful practices. So in our report, we are looking at those matters. Generally, as a country, we have made a progress in terms of population matters. If you look at our population, as we have increased, but at least in reasonable manner, we have increased starting from the year we got independence. Annually, we're adding 1 million population in our country. But also, we have reduced our fertility rate from as high as 8.5 to currently 3.5. If you look at our family planning rate, it has increased tremendously. At the moment, we're talking about around 60% of women who need reproductive contraceptive services are getting in our country. We have reduced what we call the unmet need, which is one of our commitment, that any woman who requires any family planning, she can get from any of our facilities in our country. We have reduced our maternal mortality. We have reduced our child mortality. We have reduced our infant mortality. Our target by 2030, we need to end teenage pregnancy, which is a big concern right now. We need to reduce what we call female genital mutilation. We have a presidential commitment and a presidential declaration. By 2022, we must end any harmful practice, including female genital mutilation. And that's our target.
Okay, and even to mention the goal for 2030, reducing of teenage pregnancies, what are some of the steps as a country or as a government we're taking towards doing so?
If you look at today's celebration, although it was under the restriction of the COVID-19 and observing the MOH guidelines, with all social distancing. We had invited few cabinet secretaries, and you could see the participation. We want to approach this one as a multi-sectoral approach, because teenage pregnancy is not an issue that can be handled by one institution. It is a one government approach. And as a government, we're looking at issues to do with from the parent, from the Minister of Education, from the Minister of Gender, from the Minister of Health, ICT and youth. It is a holistic way of doing these things, because what are the causes of teenage pregnancy in our country? The teenage pregnancy is something to do with poverty, issues to do with, lack of education, issues to do with problem of, lack of girl empowerment and other issues. So if we do these things together with our faith-based organizations, with our religious leaders, with our government together, I'm sure this issue we can tackle it. And that's why today it was really an occasion to bring these people together, because this is something our president has given directions that we should, look at in this matter. And that's why really our ministers were here today also to give what they are doing in terms of population, to celebrate the day under these circumstances of COVID-19.
All right, thank you so much for your time. And Mark, one of the key things that has come off very vocal is the involvement of parents and various stakeholders to ensure that this issue of teenage pregnancies is put an end to. And even with the government ensuring that by 2022, there will be an end to female genital mutilation, and by 2030, to strive to end teenage pregnancies, it still calls upon each and every one of us to take part in this. Back to you, studio.
Yes, definitely. Each and every one of us, the stakeholders, to take part in it. You spoke to the teenagers yesterday as there was a report out, and they also want a part to play in the consultative process moving forward. And from taking count on our population to where we stand with the COVID-19 pandemic, Kevin Mutai is still following up with the Cabinet Secretary of Health, Mutai Kagwe, where he will be expected to give an update in about an hour, actually.
Well, we are coming to you live from Msambweni Referral Hospital in Kwale County, where we are informed that any moment from now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, together with other officials from the Ministry of Health, will be making their way here, accompanied by the administration of Governor Salim Mvurya, to give his daily briefing on the coronavirus situation in the country. This is the third county of his coastal tour after visiting Mombasa and Kilifi counties, with Kagwe also noting with great importance how the country has been able to battle with the pandemic, and of course the intervention the government has put in place to ensure that they can be able to stem further spread of the virus. We are expecting Kagwe to touch on various issues, including the safety of healthcare workers, especially after yesterday confirming that one of the frontline workers succumbed to the pandemic. But of course, here in Kwale County, we have reports that since the outbreak of the disease, Kwale County, out of the 1,598 samples collected, 139 people were confirmed positive for coronavirus, out of which 85 are foreigners, 54 being Kenyans, and from that 54, 30 are residents from Kwale County, while the 24 are from other parts within the coast region. We are also noting that Kwale County has achieved the recommended bed isolation capacity of with 340 beds distributed across 4 isolation centers in the region, including one in Matuga, the other one is in Lunga, and of course Msambweni and Kinango. But of course, among other challenges that have been experienced in this region is the border in Horo, where we've had challenges with truck drivers, some of them testing positive. But Mark, what is worth noting is that right now there's no patient in isolation, as that is according to the chief officer from the Department of Health, who told us that all the patients that had been be placed under quarantine have been treated and discharged. So we are expecting to gather more information from the administration, the Kwale County administration, of course, get more information from the ministry led by CS Kagwe. So stay tuned. Don't leave any moment from now. The CS will be making his way here, and of course will be compiling a more detailed report in our subsequent bulletins, that is 7 and 9 p.m. Back to you, Mark Masai.
Not going anywhere, Kevin, and as soon as Kagwe, the CS, starts his address, we'll be going live there in Kwale. And yes, he's mentioned the loss of lives in the face of this pandemic. The frontliners, the doctors, and even leaders and their families have been affected, and Wananchi at large. And Baringo woman representative Gladwell Cheruiyot's husband Isaac Chepiegon was laid to rest yesterday in their Kapkiamo home in Kelio location, Baringo County. Isaac passed on the 4th of July at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital while undergoing treatment for COVID-19. The burial was conducted as per the Ministry of Health measures in burying victims within 30 minutes. He leaves behind a widow and 5 children.
Security was beefed up at the home of Baringo woman representative Gladwell Cheruiyot, if only to ensure that social distancing is maintained during the burial of the politician's husband. The guidelines by the Ministry of Health were followed by those in attendance who are required to sanitize before joining in the ceremony. The cause of death transcended the pain of the loss. Caution was observed as the presence of COVID-19 in the society became so clear. The heavy-geared morticians were not leaving anything to chance. But much closer to the departed was a grieving widow whose influence in the society was masked by a cloud of sadness caused by a defiant virus.
I'm forced to accept the departure. Until we meet again, rest in peace, my love.
Her colleagues in Parliament were quick to address the looming problem of stigma that may be extended to patients of COVID-19 and their relatives, all the while using the opportunity to warn the public from being reckless.
Nataka kutangaza hapa wazi ya kwamba tulikuwa na wao tukienda kupimwa. Kwa hivyo wako sawa na msiogope kwenda kuomboleza na wao kama mnatazama hiyo social distance.
Maneno ya ugonjwa, maneno ya kifo isiingie na siasa. Mimi nataka kuomba.
Corona ni ugonjwa na uko. Tafadhali valia barakoa kila wakati uko katika jamii.
The virus appears to be non-discriminatory, hitting even the powerful in the society. While life will go on, it may never be the same for those who have a close brush with the virus and the loss that comes with it. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
We say pole sana to the family of Gladwell and all the other Kenyans that have lost their loved ones to this virus. And as the messages come from that family of the Baringo woman representative, Corona is real. And even that threat wasn't enough to get people to be careful in Molo, where residents scrambled for food rations from Nakuru County government in total disregard to COVID-19 protocols. Police had a hard time controlling the crowd. The food distribution by the county government turned chaotic as the residents forced their way into Molo Secondary School. Look at that. Despite not being among those listed as intended beneficiaries, and some locals say they have seen the mistake they made in exposing themselves to the infection, but that they had no choice and fight for the food which they don't have at home. The county government says its officials were forced to abandon the targeted beneficiaries and distribute the food to all the residents who showed up, even though the food wasn't enough. This comes at a time when Molo has recorded at least 17 cases of patients of COVID-19 this week. At least 300 families that were displaced by floods in Magarini, Kilifi County will have new homes soon once the county completes a housing project intended for their resettlement. The 1 billion shilling housing program being spearheaded by the Kenya Red Cross is targeting 6,000 families countrywide, specifically in areas that suffer perennial flooding.
The 2018 floods that occurred in Mikuyuni, Bate and Masindeni areas of Magarini, Kilifi County forced families to move to makeshift camps for 5 months at the Garashi Chief's office. Hundreds of flood victims were rescued by Kenya Red Cross and the Kenya Defense Forces, who airlifted them by helicopters to safe zones. Due to the deplorable conditions at the internal displaced people's camp at the Garashi Chief's office, the Kenya Red Cross and the national government initiated a housing project for over 300 families in order to permanently settle them in their new homes in Magarini.
Naomba endapo kutapatikana chochote, wale ambao hawakupata wakati ule kujengewa waweze kuangaliwa pia, ama waweze kuwa watafikiriwa.
Affected families initially received 16,000 shillings, followed by 25,000 and finally 11,000 shillings to complete constructing their new houses.
Ukiingia hapa maji yanafika hapa, unaenda mpaka tukaenda mahali tunasema hapo ni juu. Tunafika hapo, maji ni mengi, watu ni wengi, tukasimama hapo.
In other counties like Tana River, the housing project faced challenges as some of the locals who benefited from the scheme built in flood zones, resulting in their houses being destroyed again. The 1 billion shillings housing program, being spearheaded by the Kenya Red Cross, is targeting 6,000 families countrywide in areas with perennial floods. Seth Olale, NTV.
Siasa now, and politicians allied to Deputy President William Ruto have accused those allied to Baringo County Senator Gideon Moi of fueling the rift between DP Ruto and the President Uhuru Kenyatta. But those allied to Moi Gideon Moi that is, have dismissed them, saying that the close cooperation between Moi and President Kenyatta will benefit the people of Rift Valley, arguing that both Ruto and Moi come from the same community.
Kutoa kiti kutoka Mgeio iende kwa Tuken sio mbaya. Ubaya ikipeanwa na chuki. Baringo North hii sio mahali pa kutengeneza siasa ovyo ovyo.
Alafu kuna watu wengine wanasema maneno ati rais ni adui ya Wakalenjin. Kwani iko shida gani? Kiti ikitoka Mkeyo iende kwa Mtugen. Kwani na Mkeyo na Mtugen si Kalenjin? Ama namna gani? Ama kiti ya chairman ikitoka kwa Cheptumo iende kwa Kamke. Sisi wote ni Kalenjin. Kiti ikitoka kwa Ruto iende kwa Gideon. Iko shida gani? Iko nani si Kalenjin hapo?
Jukumu letu ni kuheshimiana ili tupate kuelekeza wananchi njia nzuri, njia mwafaka, njia ya maendeleo.
A family in Mount Elgon is seeking justice for their son who was allegedly shot dead by forest wardens while fetching firewood in Mount Elgon Forest. According to residents at Temia village in Mount Elgon region, the 23-year-old Daniel Kibet had ventured out in an effort to help his wife who had just given birth. They are now calling on the government to arrest the culprit and ensure the family is compensated. Area leaders have condemned the killing, saying such incidences have become a norm in the area. Kopsiro Sub-Location Deputy Commissioner David Boweni has promised to follow up on the investigations into the matter and ensure the family gets justice.
Hatujui ya kwamba ni shida gani ndio huyo kijana wawe. Alafu ng'ombe sikienda huko msituni, wanachukua hizo ng'ombe, wanachukua mpaka wanaenda weka kwa hizo minanda sawa. Na wanaitisha shilingi 1,000. Kama una 1,000 hawezi kufungua ng'ombe.
Kiangalia mtoto ambaye mjana ambaye amewachwa hapa na mtoto wa mwezi mmoja ama wiki 3.
Meanwhile, over 100 youth from Bumula, Bungoma County came together to donate blood at the Bumula Health Center as doctors raised the alarm that many health facilities are currently grappling with a shortage of blood during this pandemic. Attributing this to misinformation, the doctors say that many people seem to be scared to donate blood. Traditionally, it was college and high school students who would donate blood, but haven't because they are currently home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The public are now being urged to come out in large numbers and donate to health facilities. On that note, let's take a break. I'll be back with more, including sports.
Mambo hayajakuwa sawa tangu shule zifungwe. Kukabiliana na mitihani bila kujitayarisha kabisa kuifanya. Wasiwasi mwingine ni kupitwa na masomo. Kwa kweli sio sawa. Ukitaka kuwafundisha wakiwa nyumbani, wao nao wanataka kucheza tu. Tufungue njia elimu iendelee kwa kufikia bure mtaala ulioidhinishwa na KICD kupitia Safaricom Digital Learning na Shupavu 291 ukiwa nyumbani. Wanafunzi wa shule za msingi na sekondari wanaweza kuendelea na masomo yao wakiwa nyumbani. Fungua njia ya bure kufikia masomo yaliyoidhinishwa na KICD ili watoto wapate masomo na marudio wakiwa nyumbani kupitia Safaricom Digital Learning na Shupavu 291. Piga *291# upate maelezo zaidi. Tufungue njia elimu iendelee.
Dad, what's titration? Remove of dirt from the water.
Dad, that's filtration!
Welcome to the Cynics Android TV lounge.
It is elegant. Angalia your design, exclusive. Oh, wow. You don't even have to put a wall bracket.
Yes, these promotions will be running from the 15th to the 21st of July.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Welcome back. The largest long-haul carrier in the world, Emirates, will cut 9,000 jobs from its workforce in light of the pervasive impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the aviation industry. The airline, which had a workforce of 60,000 pre-COVID, had already instituted downsizing measures prior to the latest announcement that it will further scale back on the number of its employees. The International Air Transport Association estimates that the aviation industry will lose over $84 billion in revenue just this year. Emirates has a large fleet comprised of the Airbus A380 and Boeing 777s. The airline's heavy investment in the A380 had kept the plane in the production line before Airbus announced early last year that it will end its production. The government has extended coffee trading licenses for the next 1 year, putting a stop to a dispute that had been brewing between marketing agents and the Capital Markets Authority. Trading licenses for the 2019-2020 coffee year expired on June 30th, and coffee marketing agents were to apply for new licenses as brokers at CMA, which never happened due to what the capital markets regulator said was lack of crucial structures. Agriculture and Fisheries Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya has also confirmed plans to review the CMA coffee exchange regulations in the next 3 weeks. The extension of the licenses comes a few hours after a farmers' lobby, the Kenya Coffee Producers Association, called for suspension of the rules until all the structures and systems had been put in place, including amending the Cross Act 2013.
The regulations that are already there to improve them. So we are not disregarding what Parliament passed. We are following the normal procedure to review the regulations, both the general regulations and the trading regulations, to make them better. We are just saying, let's bring transparency, accountability, and fair trading rules so that the market operates optimally to the benefit of all the players.
Some news from the continent now. 1 person was killed and 20 others injured in Mali's capital, Bamako, on Friday during a mass rally against embattled President Ibrahim Keita. Thousands initially gathered in a central city square to demand that Keita resign over the country's long-running jihadist conflict, economic woes, and perceived government corruption. But the protest afterwards descended into violence seldom seen in the West African state's capital as protesters blocked main roads, attacked the parliament and stormed the premises of the state broadcaster. The circumstances under which people were wounded and one person was killed were not immediately clear. The protest, organized by a new opposition coalition, is the third such demonstration in 2 months, significantly escalating pressure on the 75-year-old president. Keita this week unsuccessfully floated political reforms in a bid to appease opponents, but did not accede to demands from the political opposition to dissolve the parliament and form a transition government. Morocco has reported 698 additional novel coronavirus infections, the highest one-day increase since the outbreak began in early March, with numerous cases discovered in a fish canning factory. The new figures bring the official total in the North African Kingdom to 14,132 infections and 234 deaths, according to the Health Ministry. Majority of the new infections were detected at a fish canning factory in the southern port city of Safi. The city was quarantined and it's around 300,000 inhabitants placed under total lockdown. Morocco, with a population of around 35 million, eased virus-related restrictions, on June the 25th, reopening cafes, restaurants, hotels and sports halls. The Magical Kenya Open Golf Championship will take place from November 12th to 15th at the Karen Country Club. The event, which is part of the European Tour, had initially been scheduled for March 12th to 15th, but was postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. 144 golfers will compete for the prize money of €1 million. Of those 144, 12 will be Kenyan and 3 will be regional players drawn from the 2019-2020 Safari Tour, as well as 6 amateur golfers selected by the Kenya Golf Union. The Kenyans include professionals Dismas Ndiza, Simon Gige and Greg Snow. Real Madrid are 2 wins away from clinching the La Liga title after victory over struggling Alaves. Karim Benzema's penalty put the league leaders in front. The Frenchman then teed up Marco Asensio for the second, awarded after VAR overruled an incorrect offside decision. And second place, Barcelona trail by 4 points, and if they lose at Real Valladolid on Saturday, Real can clinch the title by beating Granada on Monday. In other games tonight, Atletico Madrid host Real Betis and Osasuna take on Celta Vigo.
The decision is goal. So Real Madrid.
Oh, how I pray we had a VAR on the year 2020 because COVID-19 has fouled us. A good one, as we say in Kenya. Let's leave you on a smiley note. The quest for unity and the forces of division may be strange bedfellows, but in the land of Mulembe, they seem to walk hand in hand. It's all about who takes the mantle of gatekeeper and who needs who amid confusion over who is loyal to who. Not even a new bus is helping, with some leaders declaring they are not boarding, as Emmanuel Juma now reports on Bullseye.
The happiness, the joy was palpable. The men of Mulembe and the son of Jomo, it seems, had just struck a deal. What was it they got? Our reporter Moses Masika Wetangula has the details.
Wanaenda kwa rais wa nchi kuomba bus.
Francis, you are there. Is the reporting correct?
We were not there to be given a bus. The president only blessed that bus.
Na tukauliza rais mambo kadhaa. Halafu wanatudanganya at we sat and had a long discussion with the president to come out with a bus.
Just call it Luhia bus politics.
I want to make it absolutely clear that I helped to buy that bus.
How about these two, the ones seeking divine intervention?
They were also approached by CS Wamalwa to contribute to this bus. Musalia and Wetangula, and they declined.
That could mean they are not interested in taking a ride on the bus.
He should join other leaders. He should not play it solo. He should not be a smooth operator.
How about you joining them?
The leadership of Western Kenya is in my hands. It's not in their hands. Yeah, so they need me more than I need them. They need me more than I need them. They need me more than I need them.
People of Western Kenya, you will never walk alone. The people of Kenya, you will never walk alone.
And as you can see, Francis, they are not walking alone. Perhaps it's time you started hanging around them.
I will never hang on somebody's shoulders. I will never hang on somebody's shoulders.
If this is the bus the Mulembe nation is expected to board, chances are it will leave half empty, meaning the disunity persists.
Let me tell you, there is nothing like Luhya unity. There is nothing. That is a misconception. Luhyas are united.
But before then, we must find a person Mamangilu calls...
Kingpin.
Yes, that one.
Western Kenya region imeiva. Imeiva kutoa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Luhyas will never elect beggars. No beggar will be elected in Western Kenya.
Let's see who among them is closest to Hunye and therefore closest to power.
Niko peke yangu huko. Na kama kuna mtu anajua siri ya Uhuru Kenyatta, sidhani kuna mtu anaweza jua siri ya Uhuru Kenyatta kuliko mimi.
Governor Paranya anasema ikiwa we are serious, tuvunje vyama vyetu, tuwe na chama kimoja. Na yeye anazungumza, na yeye ni deputy party leader wa ODM.
Ukitaka kuwa Luhya spokesman, wewe endelea. Hatuna haja na hiyo. Wewe endelea na hiyo. Ukitaka kuwa Luhya gatekeeper, wewe endelea.
And Atwoli will still say,
the Luhyas are united. This squabbling is everywhere.
And as this goes on, the threat of somebody else executing a katikati move among the people of Mulembe is ever present.
Kenda kule kwangu Bondo ni Sakwa. Sakwa. Raila Odinga ni mjukuu wa 13 wa Nabongo Wanga.
Hata ukimuuliza Mulembe, hata ajue anajibu nini.
Hallelujah vero.
They sing on, and each song is no longer just a song, but a message, a deep political message.
Nayani kutemashaka.
Decipher the message for us, William.
Kuna changamoto katika vyama.
We get it. How about you, Sankok? Are you still Jubilee Damu?
If you take my blood sample, you will not get coronavirus. Instead, the composition of my blood will be red blood cells, Uhuru, white blood cells, Kenyatta.
And where is William?
So the minerals that are in my blood, sodium and potassium, which are normally very reactive, is Ruto, Murathe, and Tujo.
You better believe the man. Look at Junet now. This is what loyalty has bought him. A ride millions can only dream and read about. Call him anything you want, sycophant or ngombe, but the man is truly living, not surviving. It's all about knowing people. Waziri Mutahi, do you know a man called Burale?
Murathe? Who? Huh? Now, me, I never heard of this guy.
Burale, sir. A man who has been getting lots of booze lately.
What is he doing?
You don't get it.
When you say I can get it, I can get it. I just...
Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
If only Juma and the CS knew some of the connotations. Anyway, probably they don't get it. And yes, that's where we end NTV News at 1. Someone watching, Alan, actually my friend, he said, look imeweza. And I said, you know, it has to be known what is actually down here. I might get into trouble, but we need to laugh sometimes. And guys, this is a Saturday, so we kind of loosen up and this is how I'm dressed today. I'm done with 1 o'clock. Olive Burrows will be back at 9 o'clock. Let me go listen to one of my favorite songs right now. Le Marquis. Good afternoon.
This